The 21-22 championship season for Preston North End was the definition of frantic and confusing, especially in comparison to the way the current season is going, all things considered. Starting the season in awful form under a manager who was seemingly clueless and did not suit the style of the club. Come the winter and McAvoy was out and in came Ryan Law. The silky Scouser was just what we needed as he came through the doors with passion, ambition and excitement. But with him came his form book, and on that form book was Steven Gerrard, the Aston Villa manager at the time. Super Ryan of course had a good connection with Stevie from the past, but him being the manager of a Premier League club with a good academy was more than perfect. So off went our gaffer. He looked through his notepad and found a name that would soon cement itself into the minds of Preston North End fans. He called up Slippy G and asked him for a very special young lad, and without hesitation, a very talented young lad came through our doors, named Cameron Archer. Cam was a breath of fresh air, a young, natural-born goalscorer who simply wanted to play. After scoring a hat-trick on his full Villa debut, he was seemingly raring to sink his teeth into Premier League action, but soon drifted further from that dream as he was forced to the bench week in, week out, and only got game time in cup games. Law knew the potential in this boy. Bringing him in was a no-brainer. A player of that quality would play 90 minutes consistently at a level down. So when the phone rang in January, it seemed like the right thing to do to send him over to Deepdale. So in he came, soon settled, scoring just 12 minutes into his P&E debut. In fact, it was the first player since 2016 to score on their debut for Preston. From the get-go it was clear that Archer is exactly what we needed to get back on our feet after such a poor start, and that he allowed us to do. We continued through the season, earning some great wins and getting our own back against Blackpool in April when they came to Deepdale. A moment now cemented in P&E history, alongside the player who won us the derby. When the season came to an end, we could not keep a hold of any of our loan players. Not Sepp, not Everson, and certainly not Archer. Over the summer, Archer would go on to play for England under-21 and score 4 goals in 4 games, which is a relatively impressive tally. So why is it upon returning to Villa despite such excellent form, Archer does not get any more than 10 minutes of game time? He gets a few more minutes in the cups, but in the league he continues to collect more splinters in his arse. It makes P&E fans wonder, will he ever return to Deepdale? Firstly, let's look at the current situation at Villa. Gerrard has just been sacked and Unai Emery is confirmed to be taking over as head coach from November the 1st. Any good manager would see the potential in the lad and give him the game time he rightfully deserves. Maybe not starting matches just yet, but certainly earning at least 25 plus minutes to play per game is valid. Starting in other competitions, however, is an absolute must. If this is not happening by the time the winter rolls around and the transfer window is open, it isn't daft to think the new coach might want to send the lad out on loan again. Whether or not P&E take advantage of that is down to Ryan and more importantly the owners and directors. They have openly said they will match any offers for Archer made in the Championship if the opportunity was to come around, but based on the stingy ownership and tight budget, it might not be plausible. See, P&E might certainly need a clinical striker to take advantage of the numerous chances we create, but we more importantly need more options for depth. The midfield is already bursting with options, but the lack of proper right wing backs is alarming as we are clearly weak in this area. Maybe some more attacking midfield type players could do some good as well. Many said we are a Cameron Archer away from being able to fly through the league, but based on the tight budget of the club, if Archer was to return, he could well be the only signing made due to his price tag. To sign him permanently, unfortunately, is unrealistic. A loan seems increasingly unlikely too, mainly due to our board, but also in part of Villa feeling the need to keep him despite not using him. It's a strange situation that is not helped by either side. But back to the point, if this new manager has any interest in developing Archer, he will either play him or loan him in the winter, the former of which will likely prevent the latter. We'll have to wait and see how many minutes he gets over November and half of December before attempting to make any solid conclusions. Now let's take a look at what's happening on the inside. After the 4-2 defeat at Bloomfield, Ryan openly said he will try and help the lads in January, making it openly clear that he does not have all he wanted, despite saying numerous times he was happy. Law was probably given a tight budget over the summer like every previous manager. Look at the lads he did bring in, however. Most are either free agents or only loanees. We was able to bring in as many as we did because of the smaller, more affordable price tags on these lads. Preston aren't in any position to be spending millions on players, since the ownership only invests so much to keep us afloat. While the club is in the interest of the Hemmings, what they do not understand is how much they are holding us back. If they was able to pump more funds into the club, it's quite likely that we could get the most out of the lads and almost definitely push for promotion. However, we do not know the ins and outs, so we cannot exactly demand this. P&E is a club that is far from fantastic, but we're certainly not terrible. We always end up mid-table simply because we are unable to nail the recruitment due to the funds. We could get away with it in the lower leagues, but the Championship is ruthless and unforgiving. It demands higher investment, something that the Hemmings simply cannot and will not do. A change in ownership would almost definitely allow us to bring in more money and be successful, but it's all about the right buyer. After all, we do not want to change owners just for it to fall through. The hemmings may be frustrating, but they keep us afloat and running. Football these days is a business, it's not just a sport. We have to appreciate this as fans and accept the reality of it rather than be quick to point the finger. Anyways, if Archer was available in the winter, we most definitely cannot afford to sign him permanently, something he himself may not want since he's just signed 5 years at Villa. A loan is something doable provided it is in the interest of the club and Cameron, and that is the only worry. While Cam has said he would be open to return, it is provided he has no other club to return to. He's still at Villa until 2027 at least, unless he or the club changes any terms, and that on its own is another matter to discuss, but not for this video. Bringing him back isn't as simple as it sounds, unfortunately. It's going to require a stroke of luck, all things considered, but let's say we do bring him in, and his wage has to increase. Can we afford anyone else? A clinical striker is more than needed, absolutely, but it extends beyond this. There is also more lads needed in different positions for that depth. If Archer alone will prevent that, I don't see us being able to achieve promotion. He's quality and gave us so many points last season, but for us to remain strong all over the pitch and long term, we need more boys in. Even if we did get promoted this season, Archer would then have to return to his parent club alongside Alvaro and Parrott, something that is far from ideal as we will be losing 3 quality players, making the summer goal next season even more difficult. It's safe to say it's very difficult to stay up if we do go up based on our recruitment. Maybe Premier League money would help, but not by much based on what we are competing with. So, after looking at our situation, Villa's situation and Archer's situation, what conclusions can we make? Well, I believe there are 5 possible outcomes. The first being Archer returns on loan this winter and returns in the summer. This will only happen if Villa's new gaffer doesn't play Archer but sees the potential and decides to loan him for development. Of course, we'll have to be on the ball and nab him as fast as we can, but those variables are not fully accounted for in this speculation. So yeah, all things considered, Archer could definitely return this winter, provided they decide to loan him in lower levels of English football, because nothing is stopping him from going abroad. Number 2, Archer does not return this season. Perhaps the new boss sees his potential and wants to develop it in-house, by allowing him game time in the league and not just cup fixtures. This would see him stay at Villa until his contract ends, provided he does well. If he doesn't do as well as they would have hoped, a full season loan come the summer is plausible. Number 3, Archer returns in the summer. Extending from the last point, if they keep hold of him for the rest of the season and see no results, it may be likely he goes for a full season on loan somewhere. This will be one mighty bid with some fierce competition, however, so acquiring his signature might be quite the challenge. Number 4, Archer never returns. Let's face it, this seems like the more probable option at this rate. We just don't like to think about it. Villa have themselves a star in the making. To not retain him would be a poor decision on their end. And finally, number 5. This one, take with a grain of salt and wishful thinking. We make it to the Premier League next season. What then? Wouldn't it be redundant to send him to another Premier League club? Well, not exactly. See, it's the game time that matters the most. Archer has proven he's too good for the Championship already, and that's without a doubt. So to get a consistent 90 minutes in the Premier League will do him a world of good, since he can play against players and a quality standard that will soon become his own standard. It will allow him to compete in the Premier League from the moment he returns to Villa, but like I said, unlikely option. So, what can you take away from this video? I don't want to build false optimism, but I also don't want to be overly pessimistic. Archer could indeed return to P&E one day, it is not impossible. It would likely have to be sooner than later, however, and that's the only issue. We are in no good position to be able to comfortably bring him back currently, and by the time we are, he might already be killing it at Aston Villa. Cam's situation screams out loan, but we cannot predict the future and we definitely cannot make any guarantees. We would love to have him back, and that's why we clamoured for Villa to let him go. That's the truth of it all. Even if there is a chance, everything else points away from it being able to happen, unfortunately. If I was to give a percentage of likeliness, I'd probably say we have about a 35% chance of his return at most, which is certainly not favourable. It may be a dream come true to see Archer in a Preston shirt once more, but until then, it is only a dream. Fucking sirens in this city. It's only ever when I record.